It's been almost 3 years since I started my business, where I basically work for myself in doing this anti capitalist career coaching thing. And I have learned so much about what it means to go all in on my idea of a liberated life and to create that life from absolutely nothing. There have been a lot of challenges in my journey. I don't want to make that seem like that's not the case. When you're building your own business, you have months where you make a lot of money and you have months where you make no money at all. You figure out how to work in ways that support you, that support your nervous system. You begin to understand what clients you really want to work with and how you can bring those clients into your world. And also, you create a number of incredible partnerships with people who are doing work just like you're doing. All of these things are some of the most beautiful parts of being in my business, even the uncertainty pieces, because they really teach you what type of work you want to do, what type of money you would like to have, and also how you can begin to create a rhythm with abundance and with this idea of financial liberation that suits you, your nervous system, and your overall well being. While I still have a lot to learn on this path, and I learn more with every single client I work with, every single person who has a slightly different experience with income and a different dream they would like to carry out during their time here on this planet. I have also realized a lot about what it means to experiment with this idea of liberation. When clients come to me, they usually are interested in creating income streams that give them more freedom, flexibility, joy, happiness, stability, all of the different things that can make your life more beautiful and rich. And one thing that I consistently do with every single one of my clients is help them understand and help them see the path of experimenting with their own day to day lives so they can become more liberated and more free. You see, a lot of the Income Rebellion's work is in creating a values aligned income stream for yourself. But in that journey, you oftentimes change so much as a person that you really won't be able to recognize yourself after you're done doing this work. I have had clients move to countries across the world, start businesses from scratch. I've had clients heal some of their relationships with their family members and also heal their relationships with themselves. I think all of my clients have at least a little of that in their work. And the beautiful part about this is that there's not a single path, there's not a single journey. All of it is highly customized to support you, your unique vision, and also the unique mindsets, behaviors, and hurdles that stop you from becoming the person that you ultimately would like to be. It's beautiful because I believe that we are the generation that is creating a broader sense of liberation in the world. We have the opportunity now to experiment with liberation on the individual level, to create better income streams, to create a life that we absolutely love, to create community that we care for and that support us and pour into us as much as we pour into them, or even more sometimes. We're creating this at an individual level, which looks like reciprocity, it looks like care, it looks like intentionality, it looks like healing and challenging the ways that you think about the world, the ways that you've thought about the world in the past. But I also believe that as a collective, we're doing the same process as of change. In previous generations, a lot of liberation work and liberating work was focused on understanding the dynamics of harm, of naming the different harms, naming the different issues in this world, and then creating a platform so that we can all be in agreement about what harm looks like and how harm has transpassed for different communities. We see this especially around racial justice. I'm mostly talking about the US in this context. And we see this a lot with other issues like feminism, like having, a living wage. We really focused on naming what the harm looks like and proposing a solution. But none of these solutions have really focused on changing the culture, changing on how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive what is owed to us as individuals, us as a collective, and what is just in that redistribution of wealth, of labor, of freedom, and of rights. Now our conversation is changing because we are less in this phase of naming the thing that is wrong and creating solutions to address that one specific thing. And instead, I believe that we are being challenged to completely rethink how we create culture and what we culturally accept in our world. To me, this looks like really understanding the process of repair, both relationally, understanding what it means to navigate a relationship past a point of rupture. And that doesn't have to be romantic, it can be with your colleagues, it can be with your family, it can be with any individual person, it can also be with yourself. The other part of it is really understanding new ways of being that support a more equitable and healed future for us collectively. So, kind of like with AI and the internet, we don't really need more ideas. We don't really need more content. We don't really need to consume more information. We really need to take action and integrate the things that we know so that we can experiment and understand what better futures may lie on the horizon. This requires discipline. This requires focus. This requires a commitment to build a better life for yourself and for the collective. This is really cool, in my opinion, because it transcends a lot of late stage capitalistic cultures and thinking that really encourages people to live purely based on scarcity. That encourages people to live out of fear of what might happen to you as an individual, and that challenges you to create or to make decisions solely from a place of fear. So, in this episode, this is a long intro, but in this episode, we're going to talk about three guiding ideas in structuring experiment and liberation so that you can take all of the ideas that you've been holding, all the beliefs that you've been holding, all of the, hope that you've been holding, and really put it into practice. You can really begin to integrate these things into your life each and every day. In this episode, we're also going to be removing some of the gunk, so some of the ideas, beliefs, and perspectives that keep people stuck before this creation process even begins. And in my Substack, you're going to receive an entire guide on removing some of this gunk, so definitely be sure to check that article out after you listen to this podcast if you would like to go even deeper in the degunking process. Before we dive too far deep up into this episode, there's going to be so much powerful information, and I know that you're excited to get to it. But I do want to share about an opportunity that I have coming up at the end of May and also into infinity, and that is the 12-week pivot program. The 12-week pivot program is designed to help you cross your next bridge when it comes to creating a liberatory life for yourself. Like I said before, this bridge can look like really finding that new job. It can look like beginning to build that new business. It can look like scaling a business if you already have one. It can look like just starting a new income stream in addition to your 9 to 5. But it also can look like some of that heart centered work, like forgiving yourself or leaving college before you graduated. It can look like really healing your relationship with your parents and understanding that their expectations of you don't need to guide your life into forever, into the future. It can look like really getting a clear understanding of what you desire in this chapter of your life and building a step by step journey towards those new goals and dreams. We take these two parts of change, this very structural, income based, let's get you money, let's get you paid, let's make sure that you're doing it in a way that aligns with your values, with your hopes, with your dreams. And we pair that with deep inner work and energetic work too, to make sure that you are at peace with receiving, no matter what that means for you. So, over the course of these 12 weeks, we really help you understand what it means to create a income stream that aligns with your nervous system and your idea of success. You'll be working a concrete proven strategy for your specific goals and your specific definition of success. But not only that, you're doing it in a container with like-minded people where you're able to cultivate a level of focus and discipline in making your dreams a reality, so you're not going to procrastinate this idea of liberation that you have a second longer. During our time together, we're going to get you clear on where you're going. You're going to overcome the limiting beliefs and obstacles that stand in your way, and you're going to take action to reach your goals. And the really best, most beautiful piece about this is that this is the work that makes your visionary. If you are a visionary, it makes you a better visionary. It makes you go deeper into your craft and your idea of the future you would like to see in the world. If you are creative, this is the work that makes you a better creative. You're going to be really tapping into your creative muses, into your creative hope in your creative vision, and you're going to be able to go deeper into your own creative journey too. If you're a healer, it helps you understand how you can heal more deeply and more completely. Because this is not a superficial 12-week rush through it challenge. It's about really understanding how you can become the person who is the best at what you do, and we pair income to that. So, in this program, you're going to have group accountability, hands on one on one coaching, and a resource library designed to help you go deeper in your practice. Normally, I include this work in my one on one coaching practices. So, everything that you'd be receiving through this 12-week pivot is normally what I give only my private one on one clients. But you're going to have the opportunity to literally save thousands of dollars and join this collective where we go through the exact same process in a community, in a place where you have a lot of one-on-one hands-on support from me without having to commit to a full one-on-one coaching package. And if you join the beta round, which starts before the end of May, you also get a special discount and some special additional supports to make sure you get the most from this journey together. So if you're interested in joining the 12-week pivot, definitely schedule a one-on-one pivot prep call with me, and I will give you a solid foundation for the pivot to see if we are a good fit for each other and to also go deeper. And that call alone is so valuable because you're going to already be able to see what strategy you need to have to be able to move forward and be successful in the work that you would like to do. Now, with that said, let's talk about what it means to create some experiments in liberation that will bring you ultimately closer to your goals and your definition and vision for success. So, the most important thing about having experiments with liberation is that we do this to create options for ourselves, to break away from a very concrete and linear path that we have been taught. And this is why it is important to go into this with the idea of creating an experiment. You see, our parents' generations before, have had concrete paths laid out for us that have not served our best interests. It's this idea that you can work your way up a ladder in a company and be able to receive more and more income over time and be able to buy a house and have a family and achieve these things in a very linear and rigid way. Where the way that we have been working, we talk about this in our podcast a lot, has fundamentally shifted from that paradigm of linear success, of linear achievement. And now we also have more tools in our disposal. We have ways that makes working for yourself easier. We have technology, which makes marketing and sales easier. And we have a gig economy that makes having more income streams outside of a traditional linear path more and more easy too. The problem with all of this is that, yes, we have more options, but we still live in late stage capitalism. So the systems that we live within are still optimized to have labor exist for the least amount of monetary value as possible. And if you've ever participated in the gig economy, you know that this is true too. That there are many opportunities to create wealth, but that the company or the service that you use, whether maybe it's like Uber or Lyft or some other website, they'll take a percentage of what you owe, or they'll cap how much you can charge for your services. So even though we have more ways of making money, we have more limitations on that too. And the important part about having experiments with liberation is that this work that we do in the income rebellion looks at what your talents, skills, and passions are, and we flip the narrative so that you are in charge of your ability to make money and that you feel in control of your ability to create an income. If you're working for someone else in a 9 to 5, this reframe means seeing yourself as the talent in your workforce, not applying to jobs, putting all of the power into the employer's hand by saying, okay, I really want to work with this company. This company is so great. This company has everything for me. And instead, reframing your relationship to work so you see yourself as the powerful person. So you see yourself as having a lot to give to a workplace and a work environment. So you see yourself as someone that people would be lucky to work with and to have in their community and in their company. This changes our traditional work, rigid hierarchical, I need someone's approval so that I can make more money, I need someone's approval so I can get promoted, into taking more ownership over your professional path so that you can genuinely have a network community and a portfolio of work that reflects your heart, and really finding opportunities that shine light on that, and finding work that really allows you to be valued in a deep and meaningful way. So another key difference about this experiment with liberation, and we talked about it in the 9 to 5 setting of what that reframe means, but if you're working for yourself, it's even more so. You are the person that is sought after. You are the person that people want to work with, and you're designing a professional path that allows that to be the case. Another important thing to recognize in all of this is that when you're pursuing any form of liberation, it is work in vulnerability. It is believing in yourself enough and knowing that you are the person who is in the center of your vision of you are the visionary, you are the creative, you are the person who's doing this powerful work. It's putting yourself in the center, and that in itself is a very vulnerable thing to do. Because when you put your work and your effort and your heart out there, you always have the ability, the possibility, the potential to face rejection and to be not accepted for the work that you create. Not only that, but if you're doing liberatory work, so you're not just experimenting with your income, but you're doing it in a way to create a better world, better communities, to help people, to heal people, to create solutions to long-standing problems, to change systems, you know, all of those different things, it requires vulnerability because your empathy is also out there and on the table too. It's the metric and the degree of care you have for your work that is now able to be scrutinized by the world in a new and different way. So this is no small job because it actually requires more vulnerability and effort from you than other traditional ways of working. Not only that, but it requires a different skill set than working within a system that already exists, like what most people do in their 9 to 5 jobs. And it also requires a different skill set than kind of working within the paradigm that someone else creates for you. You're developing the structure from the ground up that you'll need to ultimately create liberation. And that's again why it's so important to have a strategy that can support you in that work. And that's why I love giving folks in the 12-week pivot program, because a lot of times people have the vision, but they don't really have the means to create it or an understanding of how to get those means to create those visions and to make that a reality. So as you begin to design your own experiments and create your liberating life, here are 3 things for you to consider. We've already gone through the first, but let's go a little bit deeper into this idea that values aligned living, liberated living is a more vulnerable process. In this container, it's important to realize that your growth is more intuitive compared to if you're following a path that someone else already created for you. If someone else gives you the path or the strategy, then you just take the steps, step A, step B, step C, step D, to create your path. But when you're working for more liberation, you are experimenting, and these experiments are also rooted in your own intuition of what you believe is right, what you believe you need at any given point in time, and what you believe is going to be fulfilling. So you're listening to yourself more, and that is a skill in itself. It takes time to begin to learn yourself, trust your voice, and trust your own passions to be enough to be able to financially sustain you. Not only that, but you're going to be learning new skills and integrating the skills with your own values to make the world a better place and to do work that is important for you. Another thing about the vulnerability of a values aligned life is that you kind of are standing for all of the excuses people hold for why something doesn't work. So when someone says, oh, you can't make money being an artist, oh, you can't make money being an activist, you are the person who is standing in and, completely objecting those beliefs. And you're a living example of how those beliefs are wrong. Now, later in your career, as you get more and more successful, this becomes easier to do because you'll have a track record of success. You can say, okay, I was able to make money doing XYZ thing in the past, and that has been something that's been able to work for me. But when you're early on, you really just get the criticisms and you don't have the lived experience, the practice, the data to back up what it is you're saying. You're really just operating off of this idea and faith and belief in yourself that you're going to make this work. Another part of this is that you are balancing an ideal with the present state. So there's a vulnerability in balancing an ideal with the present state because you have a vision that you are creating, but the world may not have caught on to that vision yet. So you're kind of in this awkward in between place where you're seeing the potential of change, but you are bridging that gap between potential and reality. And finally, this work is more vulnerable because it requires your creative best and really showing up for your creativity, really showing up for your art, really showing up for your vision is a vulnerable act, like I was saying before, because you are being seen in your fullness, in your completeness, and in your imperfection, and the world is perceiving that for the first time. So all of the things and all the reasons why a values aligned living is more vulnerable, all of these different things makes you a stronger visionary, creative, and artist because in that vulnerability, you're able to cultivate a deeper belief in yourself, but you're able to really understand and know your strength and your potential and the extent of which you're able to create beauty in this world. The second thing to consider when you're building a liberated life is, and you're kind of experimenting with liberation, it's that you're also committing to an experiment. So when you're committing to an experiment, it can be hard to know if something is working. No one knows the long-term effect of any liberating act. So you are literally the experiment. You're literally the bunny. You're literally the person who is the test rabbit. You're the person who is trying something out for the first time. And the beauty in that is that you can lead the conversation of what makes the experiment meaningful and what does not. For example, when you're working with other people and doing this work, you can answer the question together of, well, what can we create? What can we build? What can we design? And you're able to shape change in a more unique way because you're leading the change that needs to be created. The other thing about things being more experimental is that a lot of this work must be collaborative by nature to be truly liberatory. No one person holds all of the answers, and doing this work from a place of liberation challenges all paradigms that make that seem like it's the case. But in addition to that, you are co creating more. And co creation oftentimes is more of a dance. It's more of an experiment to see, well, what does this person need through my work and through my effort? And what does this person need through my work and through my effort? And what do I like to give through my work and through my effort? And you take all of these independent pieces and you use them to build a strategy that suits you in the path forward, in a direction, in a vision that only you can do. The next piece about committing to an experiment is that you're also living in integrity. And this basically means you're matching your ideal intention with your impact and iterating from there. So this is kind of similar to the point in vulnerability where you are balancing an ideal with the present state, but it takes it a step further because in this experiment, you're looking at your results. And in those results, you have to understand the impact you have, even if you have the best intentions of the world. And what makes this work liberatory is that you're looking at those results and you're able to basically optimize and recreate those results to build something even more and more powerful. And the final thing to consider while you design these liberating experiments is that your process must speak to liberation as much as your outcome. Now, a lot of my work was previously rooted in burnout and helping people who have navigated extreme levels of burnout reground and recreate their lives, but also their careers again, too. And in that process of navigating burnout and recreating your life from burnout, it means you have to understand how you're working, how you're showing up for your dreams and your visions. And it requires you to build a new relationship with your work so that your work doesn't come at the expense of you. And a lot of times this makes you a better artist and a creative and a visionary because you are creating more time for yourself and your creative process, and you're protecting your energy and your time and your vision more than other people typically do in their professional path. So again, if you're going to be creating work that is liberatory, if you're going to be healing, creating a better world, if you're a visionary, a lot of that really boils down to designing work from a space of liberation. And that is only possible if you give yourself the space to create and understand what it means for you to be at your creative best as you build something new. So those are my tips. Those are my kind of reflections. Those are my thoughts on what it means to create something from a place of liberation and experiment with liberation more deeply. Let's talk a little bit about where I see people get stuck. And again, my Substack article on this is going to build on these concepts and give you some tangible advice, tips, and tricks on how to get out of the stuck direction. And the 12-week pivot program gives you hands-on guidance in navigating these hurdles while also developing a very clear and concrete strategy to support your vision, support your work, so that you can move it into the next phase of your creative journey. And again, we start at the end of May, so feel free to book the pivot prep call if you're curious about it, if you're interested in it, and just to play with what you can create, what you can build, and what you can design if you allow liberation to lead your life and your creative vision and your own idea of hope and joy and freedom to guide you moving forward. So, where we get stuck in this work is we have an ambiguous direction in where we're going. That means you don't have a clear strategy or structure. You may have a fear of vulnerability and intimacy. Like I said, all of this work requires a lot more vulnerability than what people are used to giving. You also might need to balance real world needs with an undefined path. So, a lot of times, people who I work with, they don't really know how to start their business without having money. So you need a short-term strategy ultimately to move through change. And a lot of times you might lack self-awareness between intent and impact. And all the time, if you don't have self-awareness between your intent and impact, that can boil down to discipline and standards. So understanding what standards you must have for your work and building and cultivating the discipline to achieve those standards. We go through all of this in the 12-week pivot program. And again, the pivot prep call can help you if any of these things resonate. The Substack post will give you some more guidance on how to move through each of these stuck points. And of course, if you have any questions, you can leave a comment here and I'll make an episode to respond, or I'll send you an email to respond or answer in the comments below. But for now, I will say thank you so much for joining this podcast, listening to this whole episode. It's always a pleasure to hear you and to be here with you in this work. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.